in some form.
I'm Marty Eisenberg. I wrote it.
I'm Alex Polinsky. I voiced the headmaster on the original animated series. I was in front of Derek's.
I'm Eric Siegenthaler. I was an employee of Hasbro and I designed all the toys for Transformers Animated.
My name is Alex Polinsky. I'm David Kay, and I still miss Derek. We used to go to cons, and I would search out some random cool restaurant to us, and jump in a cab or an Uber and head over there and always hang out. And I miss that a lot. Talleyrand, you get the kind of things. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. So thank you all. Thank you.
I'm Mika, I go by Orioglitch online and I did art for Kian for this cool thing.
Hello, I'm Chito. I draw a lot for Kian and he decided to brought me to help with the comic.
Hello, I'm Jason, or Ignited Online, and I do voices and mostly design work for Kian, including on this comic.
Hello, I'm Alex Cabrera, and I like to make a lot of Transformers animated related animations, and I did a funny little page for this comic.
And over there is famous YouTuber Paperplane running our camera as a hero. So, Marty Eisenberg wrote a comic. We produced it. We also have a dub. So first, we're going to play the dub, which is about 10 minutes, narrated by Corey Burton, starring David Kay as Cosmos. And afterwards, we're going to talk about it, and then if there's time, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A, but not before Marty and I make an announcement. Yes. Well, we'll make the announcement at the end, before the Q&A.
I should also mention too, before we get into anything, if we run out of time for any Q&A here in this room, we're all going to be right outside at that table, right outside this room, so you guys can catch up with us out there too. Okay.
And I will be selling copies of the comic at that table as well, with Marty and Eric. So, and then Darwin Road Studio is the place where you've been able to buy the comic throughout the convention, and it should be open for a couple more hours after this. So, we're going to play the Toymaker in the Box, the full dub for you guys, and please enjoy it.
Once upon a long time from now, in a technologically supercharged city of the future known as Detroit, there was a whimsically charming oasis of the past known as Wyatt Toys. A magical emporium chock full of fanciful carved and geared delights that would instill a sense of childlike wonder on all who experienced them, and could bring a wistful smile to even the surliest of faces. They were more than mere playthings. They had heart. A heart that came from their creator, the kindly Toymaker. While he may have appeared sedate, serene, and content on the outside, on the inside, he was constantly tinkering, ever seeking some new marvelous inspiration, until one day, that inspiration found him. Awe-inspiring cybernetic giants from a distant galaxy, who proved to be much, if you'll pardon the expression, more than meets the eye. At that moment, a spark was lit inside the Toymaker's heart, and the tinkering in his head took on a new shape. 2 new shapes, to be precise. The Toymaker became obsessed with all things Cybertronian. He knew immediately what he had to do. He needed to learn everything he could about these new visitors. Up close and personal. On their own turf.
He's breaking away! The cat goes wild!
With a little regard for his own safety and well well-being and annihilate all who have driven us from our rightful home world. And perhaps his sanity. Thus inspired, the Toymaker's collection of creations grew. And grew. And grew. It seemed the Toymaker's inspiration would never run dry, even if, occasionally, his supply of paint would. But then one day, everything changed. What are you waiting for, Autobot? Finish me.
That would be the easy way out, Megatron. You don't deserve it.
The intergalactic giants suddenly up and left. The city felt empty without them, as did the Toymaker's heart. The Toymaker searched the city and its environs for any trace of the missing giants, unaware that a trace had already found its way to his workshop and began to work its special brand of magic. Meanwhile, the Toymaker searched far. He searched wide. He searched low. And he searched high. More than anything, he longed to find a way to join his towering titans on their distant planets. But try as he might, he could not operate the complicated apparatus that would allow him to do so. He left disappointed. But had he stuck around for just one moment more, he would have witnessed something phenomenal. Cosmically phenomenal.
Cosmos Astronomy Log. My quest to map the galaxy in its entirety continues to hit a bit of a snag. I have been hopelessly lost for approximately 50,829,356.7 stellar cycles, give or take a nanoclip. And I'm currently following residual transwarp energy emanating from an uncharted sector in a far-flung region of a distant galaxy. Could I have finally found my way home to Cybertron? No, not so much. Obviously, a primitive mechanical civilization. I had best scan one of the local life forms to better blend in. Now, to commune with the locals. The bots do not appear to be especially communicative. The organics seem more willing to engage.
Go back where you came from, you large
But not in a good way. Joel! Perhaps I should explore further afield. This organic displays far greater intelligence. Closer study is merited. Curious. The organic and mechanical life forms on this planet appear to have melded in some strange, incomprehensible manner. Apparently, this investigation will have to wait, for our scanners have identified an unusual energy signature, consistent with, no, that can't be right. The Allspark? Here? Tracing signal location.
Discouraged, the Toymaker returned to his shop, only to find it teeming with activity. Explosive activity.
You Autobots are weak.
Destructive activity.
You could at least know. Use your turn signal.
Frenetic activity. Musical activity.
Operation Corner Line.
Villainous activity. Heroic activity.
Stay where you are, Sentinel.
Extremely dangerous for an observer activity.
Puny humans!
Fortunately for the Toymaker, another observer arrived just in the nick of time.
Ah, clearly a kindred spirit resides in this domicile. Eureka! I have found my way home to Cybertron after all. Although evidently I have grown considerably since I left the planet. Or perhaps all of Cybertron has shrunk. Oh, silly scatters indicate residual all-spark energy is animating miniature replicas of Autobots and Decepticons. This should put a stop to that. But who or what could have created such replicas? And why? Alas, these questions will have to wait, for now I find myself in possession of a fragment of the all-spark itself, and must find my way back to Cybertron with all speed.
This was an invitation the Toymaker could not resist. Alright, it wasn't an invitation, per se, but that was not about to stop the Toymaker from exploring the cosmos. In more ways than one, I suppose.
I appear to have picked up a hitchhiker from this strange organic world. It seems harmless enough. In fact, it may prove to be a welcome companion in my galactic travels. But first, duty calls. A distress beacon from a nearby asteroid.
Hi there. I couldn't help admiring your unique vehicle mode custom job from afar. I was wondering if you could see your way to give a lift to a fellow bot who's down on his luck. I can definitely make it worth your while.
Schmosmos has been impersonating Cosmos on Cybertron. His motive is unknown. Last seen hiding amongst crowds, appearing to be Cosmos to the untrained doctor. Known past crimes include identity theft, tax fraud, robot slaughter, and feeding purple.
First off, can someone get a chair for Jeff Bennett?
I have a chair.
Oh, does he? There.
Jeff Bennett, everyone.
Actors upstaging me.
So, I guess I gotta answer the question. This was something that had been gestating for a couple of years, and I was going to do it, I at least pitched it to do it for another convention, and it ultimately didn't happen. And Keen reached out to me and said, hey, I got a proposal for you. How about you write all of season 4 as a comic book? And I said, wow, that would take a lot of time, but I do have this one idea that's been percolating. It's a tribute to Derek, and I pitched it briefly to Kian. He said, oh, let's do it. And that was that. So I had all the narration already written, and then I blocked it out into a comic book script, and then Kian assembled this amazing collection of artists, and I got to watch the process happen day by day on the server, and every little comment, I got a little alert tone on my computer. It drove me crazy, but it's fun to see the whole thing come together. And it's just a delight. This is actually the first time I've seen the dub, so it's an excellent job.
I think this itself is really tied together by Will McCarthy, who was the composer of it, and he just did a really phenomenal job with the soundtrack. So how it happened on my end is after we did the deleted scenes panel last year, I remember this, I'll never forget this. Marty comes up to me after the panel, he was like, "Shit, that was some cool shit!" And this is the most professional man in the country. I didn't think he even knew that word. So eventually, I think I said to you after that panel, I was like, "Hey, I had fun working with Josh Perez and Eric Siebenaller last year. I'd love to do something with you." And you're like, "Maybe." And then I was just like looking at my phone, like, has he messaged, has it? No. And I was like, it's been 2 months, how long is it gonna take? So then I reached out to you and I was like, would you like to do some sort of animated comic story? And that's how this came to be. So we wanna go through the design process. So we put Marty Eisenberg in Discord. It was Marty and Eric and the Joshes, and then a bunch of 20-somethings, all having fun. And yeah, 20-somethings. Josh Perez says, "It's Marty," and his classic phrase of action, "It's Marty time." We want to talk about how we gave Cosmos an Earth mode, because your script didn't really specify anything. It was just kind of, he scans a UFO, and I was like, well, I think Derek would have given like a different design for the different modes. And so, you know, Derek's not here, and it's hard to replicate his style, but I just gathered a big team of artists who have all trained in it, and we all kind of collaborated and melded brains to try to like make the Earth form work through a ton of circular conversations, like what would Derek have done, people pointing out different things, etc. So this was the first pass that was from Mika, which was, I think your thought was, and I can let you talk about it, but you were like, generally, the Cybertronian forms are a lot like spikier, more geometric, and the Earth forms are rounder, but Cosmos' Cybertronian forms already very round. So your first thought was like, what if we kind of took it in an opposite direction and be more geometric?
Yes, that is correct. That was the idea was to make him look like an alien on Earth, where all the bots are very smooth already and very round, like you already said, and Cosmos being a flying saucer in disguise. It felt right to me for him to be a little bit more spiky, but yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that very first pass on him. I really like aliens and UFOs, so this was a lot of fun. According to Kiam, I'm the world's greatest Cosmos fan because I cosplayed him once.
That's true.
At TF Nation, you might have seen me walk around together with Jito yesterday.
I was gonna say this is Mika's like interior of the saucer, which didn't really change at all, as long with the UFO. And then you had blocked out a transformation as well, which I think that transformation pretty much stayed through all the design revisions. So it went from this to this. Jito did another pass at it, and you can talk about that.
Right. I think Mika did an excellent job with the first pass, but I think that as Cosmos' #2 fan, I always thought of him as a chubby little guy. So I think that the big triangular shoulders are a little too intimidating. So I cut back on that, which now he looks like this, more friendly.
But then Eric saw this and he said, my turn. Eric did another revision to boil some details down, like the backpack, and then you gave us basically the final look for Cosmos, and it was just a lot of conversations, so everyone chiming in, how would Derek do it, how, etc. Because none of us are Derek, but we can put our minds together as best as we can, along with Josh Bertram and Josh Perez.
Right, and a lot of the work that Jeet and Mika had done are, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I thought that the direction they were going was wonderful, so I was just thinking about things from a practical, like, toy designer standpoint. And since I have a little bit of experience in that kind of field, I thought, just modifying a few details here and there where things like, the vents would go and how the backpack might actually kind of collapse itself from the vehicle kibble. It might actually form a nice little rounder backpack rather than a massive backpack. So we just kind of streamlined things in that regard to, an already pretty solid design from those two.
I was gonna say then this, what's on the back of the book, this is what Eric had submitted basically as like the revised pass for Cosmos' backpack and everything. So just to give you a glimpse into like how many conversations we had trying to ask what would Derek do. There's this one panel which calls for a parking meter, and this is the final model, which is by Jason. Do you guys want to see how many conversations we had to get the look of this parking meter? We were spiraling. Jason, you want to talk about this?
It felt like okay, so, oh my god, it's such a simple thing, I cannot believe, like, Cosmos didn't have this much trouble, alright? Like, everything else, I shot through just fine, like, everything else I did with the comic. You know, usually first pass, no notes, maybe like a minor thing here and there. This parking meter was the bane of my existence. It has haunted my dreams, it has ruined my home life. Ian, would you like to explain? There was a really good design that we hit on first, but it was born from a colossal mistake from someone who read the script, who has no excuse.
Yeah, so the joke on the panel is that Cosmos is like, the life forms don't seem communicative, and he's looking at sentient parking meters. And my first thought was like, I love this design, but the joke doesn't work if they are life forms. Even though I think realistically, think about the world of animated, that's probably what they would be. But anyway, that's just a glimpse into the madness. I remember like in the first row, Marty was chiming in, then he just stopped carrying and then
alert tones never stop.
I was gonna say, not even all the models in the show were perfect, because I think Derek would just hire freelancers and sometimes just go like, sure, whatever. The number one rule of his style is no perfect circles, no perfect twist. This one's just a sphere. And likewise, this one is just a traced 3D CAD model of a pickup truck, and that had full approval from Derek. So we put more effort than we may have needed to. Jito did all the alternate costumes for the Toymaker. Do you have anything to add?
I really don't. I think everyone's input really led to the final design. There were a bunch more iterations. Like the diving suit originally didn't have the bars in front of it, but Marty preferred the one with the bars in front of it. So that's the one we did. The rest are pretty smooth.
And the Toymaker's workshop, the idea is that it's in this box. That goes into Marty's script. The box up top is like where he makes the toys and where his shelves are. Here's Jito's first pass at the toy store interior.
Because we never, on the show, we never had an interior for the toy store.
Yeah, source, we made it up. Here are Jason's models that he did. If you have anything to add. Remember the train we talked a lot about.
Yeah, I think we mostly went back and forth on if it was getting like wooden blocks or anything like that, and considering it is motorized, maybe that was a slight oopsie, but yeah, we went back and forth on that a lot, and the colors of the tracks, I think that was the second most like complicated thing you had me like work on. That's the other thing you had the most notes for, everything else was relatively smooth sailing.
Yeah. Decepticon Aiden did these. He's not here, but we love the magnifying lamp he came up with. Here's Kabuki Aku's comic cover. And are you still in here? Do you want to pop up? There, come here. Yeah. Kabuki was like basically mentored by Derek. Hands on.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate to actually work with Derek a few times here or there. He just randomly one day stumbled across my artwork. I think it was like a Transformers OC, and he was just like, huh, this is really cool. And that was like the first interaction, and I was blown away. So I was very fortunate to be mentored by him. And it's actually been a few years since I've drawn some Transformers art, so I'm surprised how quickly I was able to pick up the style. Of course, then I also did a lot of notes while working on this cover, but I did learn a lot when it comes to working on projects like this. So honestly, I was very happy to be part of this project, and I'm very, very happy to know Derek. Even if I never got to know him in person, I got to chat with him online a few times. I hope he still has that painting I sent to him. There it is. But yeah, I'm very grateful to be part of this project.
I think I should also mention that a lot of Derek Wyatt's Shattered Glass colors with Josh Perez were directly based on Kabuki's art. He was just like, let's steal the colors, and that's how it worked. Here's more of the interior. Marty preferred the middle scale of how Toymaker would fit in here. Okay, Eric had a whole box system for the toys. I think it was Alex who suggested the guy who designed the toys design the toys in the book. Eric is our literal toy maker. So yeah, there was like 80 mentioned designs, and I didn't want to pay you for 80 designs, so I was like, let's find a clever way to do it.
Could have been rich. Yeah, so with that being said, with limited time and limited resources, we had to find a way to communicate shorthand by developing a system which I call blank books. And in the toy industry, that is very, very common with, especially like urban vinyl type toys that are just simple shapes that are repeated over and over again, but then you can paint or put like details on top of them to make them look like different characters. So the first step was kind of defining what was our shape system, and these were just the first few attempts at them. Still trying to keep the character of, of all the designs that Derek had done in the first place intact, but we started making things a little sillier as we went along, and as I had more conversations with people, it started leaning into more of a Teen Titans Go type, like body structure for all the characters, and I'm like, I think we're onto something. And conversations with everybody just kind of leaned it towards like everybody was enjoying that look. So I designed basically 6 body structures overall that could apply to basically every character very easily. So any artist who was working on this book, they could quickly adapt those body structures to fit any of the characters that need to be appearing on the toy shelves in those pages.
Cool. And Marty Eisenberg is a cruel man who had a panel with 75 characters on it that Jar Blue Screws had to work through. And that is, on average, what Alex Milne had to do in every panel of More Than Meets the Eye. So Marty already touched on this, but we were doing a Zoom session with Corey Burton, and through my phone, or through the screen, I kept hearing a familiar sound. Just over and over, and I looked at my phone, and they kept corresponding with messages. And I was like, Marty, for the last 4 months, have you not found a way to turn the ringer off?
And the answer is, no, I have not. To be honest, I never looked for one either.
You have to teach us.
I'll show you guys the notification settings. So, I was looking through the script, kind of just from a background reuse perspective, how to cut down costs, and I was like, there's a farm in the show, what if we use that for the farm Cosmos goes to? And then it hit me. In episode 1, Professor Sumback is from Paw Paw, and Derek Wyatt put that in the show as a reference to where he grew up, and Derek Wyatt was also buried in Paw Paw. So I was like, that almost comes full circle, where Cosmos goes to Paw Paw, which was originally like a Derek reference to his childhood, but now it's a reference to his resting place. And Marty was okay with, doing that. Here's Destron's interior of the barn, which looks really good. He did a ton of color variants of the milking machine. He didn't have to do this. He was like, here's 9. Yeah, Mika had written slurp, slurp in the sketch, and I was like, we don't need that. Regarding the farm, we see it in the show in a flashback 50 years ago when Sumback's like a kid. And so I was like, who owns it in the present day of Transformers animated? And so I texted Marty, I was like, does he still retain ownership? Was it bought out by Powell? Or maybe he used his fortune to save his family farm, or maybe the state of Michigan's turned it into a historical site because Professor Sumback grew up there. So what do you think we should do, Marty? And Marty said, who cares? So then Mika had a phenomenal idea. What was it?
Well, Burgable is a burger place, so I was thinking, where do the patties come from? You saw me, I suggested that to him as a joke, thinking he would say, no, that's
I thought
That's a great idea.
And so this made it into the line art. Then Marty finally caught wind of it. Oh wait, no, sorry. Think about the lore implications, okay? Does Sari know that these cows are pasteurized where her father grew up? Does Professor Sumback know that this burger touched the same blade of grass where he found Megatron's head? The lore was incredible, but then Marty finally sniffed that this was happening, and he said, "It's a milk cow." So in the final art, we have no implication about who owns the farm now. Then here is Jito's play structure. So one of the first thoughts I had for Marty wrote, "Cosmos has not been on Cybertron for millions and millions of years." And I was like, he was in the show, in the crowd scenes. And you said, that can be Schmosmos. That's someone else.
They look exactly the same.
And so in that moment, I became Jim Sorensen, and I was like, I'm gonna patch this continuity error. And then we had Frank Tadaro reprise his role as once every decade Transformers animated post-show narrator from The Return of Blur and The Trial of Megatron, and now the Toymaker of the Bots. In the show, there's this scene where Daniel Witwicky, obviously his parents from G1 should be Spike and Carly, but this woman runs up to him, and it's because I think the animators just didn't know the significance of him. They just grabbed a random kid that happened to be Daniel. So this random woman is canonically Daniel's mother, and we put that into the comic. But he's also referred to as a member of the Witwicky family in Human Error, and I think I've found a solution. Oh wait. This woman also has another kid called Gary. I think this is the solution. There's multiple marriages, and it's incredibly complicated. But I think we also need to be asking ourselves, is the headmaster involved? Definitely. In the headmaster's first episode, he needs $700 billion. Could that be for child support? He definitely gets around. Anyway, that's my tangent. And then I'd like to conclude this with Marty's thoughts on some of the artwork. Blue Screws turned in the line art for this page with the kids looking in through the window. And I said, I recognize that kid. And I said, I love this kid. And that's how that kid asked Optimus a bunch of questions, and it really short. And I said, that's every interaction I have with Marty. And Blue Screws said, who would you have on your shirt? And I said, Marty. And then Mr. Eisenberg says, love it! I'm referring to the cage with the kids in fan zone, not the image of Kian wearing a t-shirt with my image on it. Don't get any ideas, Kian. I will sue the shit out of you. And then I replied, just place it.
You all will be hearing from my lawyers in the morning.
Now, I painted this on Twitter. Marty and I have something to announce. We made this at 3 a.m. and we were laughing really hard. Marty, you indicated this. When I first reached out to you, I said, what if you made the entire 4th season? And you politely declined that offer.
That's also correct.
But we had some conversations.
Yes.
So the conversations, as I recall them, and my memory is not good for even recent events. But the conversation was something along the lines of, well, would you be willing to edit the, I am remembering correctly. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. Just want to make sure. I mean, I'm happy to have you write it, but I just want to make sure nobody fucks it up. So I'll edit it. So the next day, Kian sent me an outline, and then about 10 minutes later, sent me a full script for one of the proposed season 4 episodes.
This was going to be a season 4 story, where they wanted to be one, where we go to a dark, distant future, where Bumblebee is a prime, and there's a Predacon zombie apocalypse. And Galvatron is the leader of the Decepticons. And so we had a conversation where you kind of indicated you had like an emotional need, or an emotional desire to be back in this universe. And I've had that desire for the majority of the time I've been alive. And so we are doing Transformers Animated Bumble Prime as a comic, story edited by Marty Eisenberg. Eric Wyatt had this head design. He had repurposed this as Transformers Prime concept art, and Eric took it upon himself for this comics production to kind of finish what he started. So.
What do you think? As Kian had mentioned, like Derek did develop, some heads for Transformers Prime that had, maybe they were before we had asked him to help us out with Transformers Prime. He, you know Derek. If you know him at all, he's probably thinking about Transformers more than Transformers themselves. But so he had these sketches that we're still finding, over the years, and that Bumblebee head was one of them. And we figured, what better way to honor Derek and to continue to develop this type of project with some of his own art and things that he would have done himself. So, with that being said, I kind of communicated with people in the team, trying to figure out what do we think about this guy? How's he going to be built? And everybody's like, oh, he should be more heroic, he should be bigger, buffer. Then I start naturally thinking what do we want his vehicle mode to be? So. At that point in time, nothing had really been discussed, so it was I think at one point it was just a muscle car was written in the script.
Yeah, that was our first idea, but we kind of gave you figuring.
Yeah, so I started playing around with things, and as I was reading the script, there was notes to Rodimus Prime, or Rodimus Magnus at that point in the story.
That was Derek's idea, yes, that Rodimus would be Magnus.
Yeah, so I started, in my head, I started thinking, Bumble Prime, little hot rod action, Rodimus Prime. What can we do to kind of gel some of these previous Transformers historical developments of characters who become primes and roll it into Bumblebee? So we started looking at how to incorporate a Rodimus Prime trailer onto him. I looked at things that existed in Transformers Animated, like the rockets from that Bumblebee episode where he gets upgraded. So on and so forth, all the Elite Guard version of Bumblebee. But yeah, then even some of the fan art that has appeared online that I believe Kian had commissioned over the years, where it's more of a design based on Goldbug even. So there's a lot more blue present and stuff like that. So kind of how my crazy head works is I just started taking these bits and pieces and figuring things out iteration after iteration. And everybody on the team seemed to be pretty pumped about everything. And I was like, great, if this jives with you, let's go. Let's share it with the world.
Yeah, and I should also add, when I gave you that first document, the whole first page is here's everything Derek's ever said about Bumble Prime as a concept. We talk about it at cons and we post about it, so I was like, here's everything, and we can sort through it and figure out where the story goes from here. We'll show you one more design. This one's actually from me. Against all odds, Ratchet has, oh wait, sorry, wrong one. Derek Wyatt designed Galvatron in 2014. This is the episode that they wanted to fold him into the show with. So you'll see Galvatron leading the Decepticons. And against all odds, Ratchet has survived into the distant future as well. And we'll show you one more design for the road. So it's been a fun experience, collaborating back and forth with Marty over lunch and just getting all the wisdom from the head writer of Transformers Animated. He was like, no, you idiot, Bumblebee wouldn't say that. I'm like, sorry, Marty. And before we end this presentation, while Jeff Bennett is up here, I'd like to show you something that Alex there prepared. Let me drag this onto something longer.
So I went out to dinner with Derek once, and it had been a few years since I had been doing Control Freak on Teen Titans, which Derek also designed. And Derek told me that the Control Freak and Headmaster were both him put into the different environments, and he was really like, he's like, somehow you book all the jobs where it's actually me in the cartoon. And so I thought that was really neat.
So, around last year there was a clip going viral from Johnny Bravo, a show you might be familiar with. And it was the same actors of you and the character Professor Princess from Animated. And Alex, who's at the end of the table, took it upon himself to animate a scene from Johnny Bravo with Transformers Animated characters. And yes.
This is a men's fitness magazine. I got nothing to be ashamed of. See you guys.
And that, after several hours of fumbling, is the end of our presentation.
So that's how the crowd comes back?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, just checking.
All right, at this point we can open up the Q&A line. If for the last, I think we have around 5 minutes. We can squeeze in a few questions.
Yeah, we got 6-7 minutes.
Yeah. Oh wait, is the next one Walker? Walker's at 5.
Walker's at 5.
Yeah. Oh.
I wanted to thank you guys so much for being here in the first place. Animated was one of my favorite TV shows as a kid, first shows I've ever watched. I did want to ask the question. If Bumble Prime is successful, is there any room for a animated Shattered Glass comic? Is that something you guys are keen to do in the future as well? This proves to be really good.
We've had some conversations about how that story could happen, and I guess we'll see how Bumble Prime goes, but we've talked about it.
It's not off the table.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I just wanted to say thank you all for coming out. It's being here. So like when it comes to conceptualizing something like this, like how did it like come to be? Like how, like I guess did you all like kind of know each other and then it just came to be, or?
I basically hired artists that I've worked with before who I knew were fast, because we had like a limited runway to get this done. The script came in early November, and then it was just like a very accelerated timeline. So that's why I had like a big group, so no one had to crunch for this one. And so yeah, basically it was just like people I've commissioned in the past, people I know who know like the Derek style pretty well, and it just got as many of those people as I could. It was kind of just based off seeing people's art online. Like that's pretty much what triggers it. Also, I'll see someone's art in a post, I'm like, that's pretty good. Let me commission that person. So that's kind of how the relationships are built.
I think to add to that too, Kean has a very healthy obsession with Transformers Animated and has gone out of his way over the years to not only track all of us down. I think he knows where we live. But no, he's done a lot of like just great background research on a lot of these characters and stories and people who worked on all this stuff, and he's reached out to us all over the years and built relationships with us. So now we have things in place with a nice foundation to kind of build from if we decide to move forward with anything.
The short answer is that Kean willed it into existence.
Okay.
were up on the wall when I first walked into the room. First day meeting Derek and Matt and Marty. I was like floored by all of it, but Megatron's the best the most to me.
For me, it would have to be Prowl, because it's not only character design genius, it's toy design genius, and Eric helped with that. It's the most seamless motorcycle transformation ever, still to this day. So yeah, that's how I feel.
For me, it would have to be the RC mold, because that to me is still the best version of best translation of human RC. It's actually well integrated. It's like a nice balance of, oh, it's still the girl rolled on, but it actually looks like it transforms and functions, and it just looks cool at the end of black, like all the other animated designs. So that one for me.
My favorites are Bulkhead, and special shout out to the original characters that originated and animated, like Lockdown and Lockdown. That Lockdown toy came from the Deluxe Floor Voyager. I don't know how he does it. It's crazy.
When I was very young, when I was 14, I saw an image of TFA Bumblebee and I thought he was the ugliest thing that I've ever seen. And I refused to watch animated out of spite. But then I heard the theme song and I was like, actually that looks kind of good, I'm gonna watch that. And then Bumblebee became my favorite character, so he's also my favorite design. I like the toys, but I have no professional opinions on them, I just like how Bumblebee looks.
Headmaster!
I just like the way you did he made ones that look like humans. I have a collection of renderings at home. You've seen those ones with the bot and the human form. I love that. I was because what was the episode that was the human called
Human Error.
Human Error. That's right.
And Optimus spatially was designed to kind of look like you.
Yeah, it is creepy, but that was kind of cool to the point where I wanted my own toy.
Or at least the jacket.
Hi there. So I just wanted to say, like, I've been watching animated for quite some time, and I still find myself reciting the quotes, and so thank you all for that. But my question for the actors is, how did you come across to coming up with the voices for the characters? Because I know that, for example, I know that Mixmaster was voiced based off of Joe Pesci or something.
Oh yeah, it was actually. I think that was. I don't know. Did you guys say something about wanting them to be because they're like the constructed.
We may have suggested Pesci. I mean, no, actually, you may not remember this. We had you do different voice for Mix.
Yeah, I was thinking
we were told, no, you cannot do that.
Right,
but because Jeff does a really great Travolta.
Oh, right.
And so we originally recorded it with.
But we wanted the New Yorkie thing from the beginning.
Oh yeah, they were always blue collar construction guys.
So yeah, it started out like that. I don't know. I can't get enough oil. I sweat.
They became the patient thing.
Yeah. Because the Cartoon Network said no, we cannot do that. I guess Pesci was generic enough. Travolta was so specific.
Thank you very much. Let's give a nice big round of applause for our panel there.